Okay, first just a little bit of background. Adam Schreiber and I were doing some camps for some of his golfers in the fall of last year, so 2012. And one of the things that we've noticed, and we've noticed in the past, but we really seem to focus on during this past fall, was that some of the guys transition well from doing exercises, in particular our PST type exercises, to the range, to ball striking and onto the golf course. And some of the guys don't transition as well. They do the exercises really well. They develop good motor patterns or motor habits, but they don't transition as well to the ball striking. And as we watched a group of guys hitting, and we did a couple different camps, so some of the same guys, some different guys, as we watched that group of guys, we noticed that the guys that don't seem to transition very well, the key factor seems to be how they essentially set up to the ball. And I don't mean in terms of posture and direction and setup routine and stuff like that, but I mean in terms of athleticism. And we noticed probably the biggest difference between the two was the athleticism that went into the takeaway, believe it or not. How athletically the golfer set up to the ball. Was the golfer ready to go at address, or were they kind of just standing over the ball, taking the club away, and then waiting to sometime in that backswing to start to get athletic? When that happened, they weren't able to transition as well, and they weren't able to transfer skill sets that they were developing in the PST and different exercises where they're athletic the entire exercise over to the range. So as we looked at this stuff, we started to play around with the principles we use in PST, which are predominantly forward swing or downswing or transition forward swing based, and we started to try to apply them a little bit to the backswing and in variations of the backswing to try to get to the athlete, the golfer, more athletic from the very beginning of the golf swing, really literally from setup, but certainly in terms of takeaway backswing. So the cool thing about PST, progressive skills training, is that it's exercise. It's like gym exercise. It's motor based, it's plyometric, it's strength mobility based, all those things, but it's in the shape of a golf swing. So even though it's exercise, especially a coach can shape that exercise to the technique that they're trying to impart on the student. So that allows you to do exercise while you're also working on technique. So I'll show you some of the basic exercise foundations. But as a coach, especially a golf instructor coach, you can employ your philosophies of teaching, your stylistic technique on top of the PST. Keep the exercise component, but employ the superficial mechanic that you desire, that your golf client desires, into the PST. Okay, so let's start. With transition, one of the things we notice is when we're doing our PST, we're always dynamic, we're active, we're almost, even though we're not reacting to a baseball or a moving object or another individual like you might if you're guarding, defending in basketball, you're essentially athletic and responsive. Once you get over the ball, you don't necessarily have to be reactive. The ball's just sitting there, right? So you can do great in your exercises and then get up to the ball and just kind of stand over top of the ball and really not be responsive or reactive or athletic. Take the club away. As you're taking the club away, still not really be real athletic, and then determine, someplace in this backswing mechanism that, okay, I've got to get athletic now to change direction. And typically, the stuff's happening so fast that if you wait to be athletic, you're done. And, we've talked about this a lot. Quickness in the golf swing, that related to transition, also occurs with respect to the takeaway. Not just tempo. We're not talking about quickness in terms of tempo. We're talking about quickness in terms of your ability to respond to the movement. Golf is a tricky one. It doesn't seem like a responsive, reactive activity, but it really is. At its core, at its foundation, it's really no different than any other activity, any other sporting activity. It's responsive, it's reactive, it's athletic. Okay, so here's some of the progressions. This is a full series of progressions that we worked around that seem to work really effectively, getting people to start to feel reactive and athletic right from setup, and certainly into takeaway. Okay, the first one was, we know that if we give momentum, if we create a momentum situation, we immediately have to be reactive, okay? So instead of starting here, if I start here and swing past my takeaway zone or my impact zone or my start zone, I'm already moving, I'm already active, I'm reacting to that momentum. And especially if I create a little bit of momentum outside of a normal takeaway speed, or I've got some speed, or I put a little bit of weight on our plyo club and I've got some extra weight, a little extra momentum, now my body's going to respond immediately because I've got momentum, I've got weight, I've got to be in position to change direction. The body immediately reacts. So the first thing that we can do is start out by giving the golfer some reps where we start forward or towards the target, we create a momentum environment, swing past, and stop. Now the idea here is we swing past and stop and hold. Now again, where you want the golfer, your own style, based on what you're trying to get the golfer to perform and all that, you can change the superficial look of what they're doing. Okay, I'm not showing you what physically the backswing should look like, positions, planes, stuff like that. It's the dynamic. Okay, so you can work with the golfer on position, but the idea is take them back and hold this. Now, why are we holding? Well, the first thing is we don't want to transition right away. They're going to lose that feeling of gripping the ground and being dynamic during the backswing. We don't want it to blend into the forward swing yet. So we're basically taking them to a hold position, okay? And what's nice about this is you can watch from behind, you can watch from the front. In this position, you can critique. Oh, I want your hands up. I want you're cupping, or you're flattening out. You're opening the club face. You're closing the club face. You can critique where they're at in a dynamic way by stopping them, and then they get that hold. It's sort of like doing an exercise like maybe a hip thrust, where you do the hip thrust, and you hold for that brief instant at the top. You squeeze the glute, and then you let go. So it's a reactive kind of. So momentum, hold, momentum, hold, momentum, hold. Okay, so you've got that hold position. All right, the next thing we're going to do is immediately go to 3 reps where we're now starting not up here, but down where they normally would be, okay? Hold. And then we want them to feel that same dynamic action, okay? So we want them to feel that. Again, you put them in the positions you want them to be in. It's the dynamic nature. So forward, swing, pass, hold, start down, swing, pass, hold, okay? Now, let's go into transition. Hold, swing through. So we've got dynamic, okay? Hold, swing through. One more. Hold, swing through. So now what we've created is we've blended the dynamic of the backswing with the dynamic of the downswing with a little pause to make sure they're boom. They're not lifting, they're not tipping, they're not doing anything over-rotating, anything that would detract from their ability to change direction, okay? Right back to the ball position one, boom, through. Hold, through. Hold, through. So now you've got the hold alone, backswing dynamic. You've got backswing dynamic blended with forward swing, with that little bit of pause to delineate the two. Momentum, start. Momentum, start. Now, the last thing you can do, and there's any number of variations you can do with this, would be to hit balls. Again, whatever your technique is doesn't matter. Whatever your style, your teaching philosophy, that's what you imparted. It's the dynamic that we're trying to get across here. It's the dynamic that's important. So you can shape this any way you like in terms of the technique. Use the progression of the dynamic to get the desired result, the athleticism and the ability to move and change direction. So again, one of the things that you can do is certainly you can take this movement here and then through there to right to the ball and have a ball strike. So you can do any number of variations where now you blend one of the non-ball striking movements to a feel for ball striking. And we did this with Adam's guys, Adam guiding the technique part of it, during the process. But we saw dramatic results, and the golfers gave real good response and feedback about their feels. The feels are so important. It's not so much the position, the orientations, the sort of the statics. It's the feel, it's the dynamic. And we got really good responses from the golfers, and then we saw really good results, both in the positional stuff that you do look at, the video that we took and the biomechanics data that we took, but also in the ball striking numbers. We had in one case we had a flight scope, in another case we had a TrackMan, and we're able to see the dynamics, the change in dynamics impacting ball flight. So this is a series of things that we can do to highlight being active and athletic right from our setup. So we're engaged right here rather than kind of just standing over the ball, taking away, and then trying to get engaged once we're already into the dynamic. This isn't for everybody. Not everybody needs this, but the people that do, we can see in their data, and then we can see in their ability to transition from the swing, or the exercises, I should say, to the swing. So this is a nice progression, and it's just one of the different variations of this progression that we can assign depending on what we see in terms of the data, person's reaction to exercise, and so on and so forth. But I believe it's going to be an important part of transitioning from the gym exercises, the PSTs, to the actual ball striking.